All right, continuing onward. So let's translate all of these sentences into Spanish, right? Pizza pleases me. So we're going to be using our indirect pronouns, which if you don't remember them, I will make a nice little list right here. Gustar and verbs like gustar take indirect object pronouns. So we're going to have me, te, le, nos, os, and les here. Okay, these were our indirect object pronouns. If you want to know more about these, watch the prior video. So pizza pleases me is going to translate as, and notice the structure. Pizza pleases me is me gusta la pizza. All right, let's talk about this structure, right? So notice that me is at the beginning. So the indirect object pronoun goes at the beginning. Gusta goes in the middle, and la pizza goes at the end. Now, okay, you'll see this in the second sentence. Notice the structure. Indirect object, so I'm going to write this. Indirect object plus gustar plus the subject. Remember how we talked about how, I erased it. Remember how we talked about how in Spanish, because we flipped this around, right? Pizza is the subject of this sentence, and I am the object of this sentence. So it goes indirect object plus gustar plus subject. Okay, this is the order that we're using. So number 2, which is candy pleases us. Candy pleases us becomes nos gustan los dulces, sweets. Okay, now let's talk about something very important here. Notice the difference that here, gusta ended in a, conjugated for third person singular, whereas here, gustan ends in an n, conjugated for third person plural. Why do you think that is? Look at this for a second and think about why that may be. Okay, the reason that it's like that is because this subject is plural and this subject is singular, and gustar has to be conjugated to match the subject. So if this was las pizzas, this would be me gustan. And if this was el dulce, this would be gusta. Nos gusta el dulce. Do you see the difference? There's a difference between the conjugation because the subjects differ in number. Okay? Moving on to number 3. Writing pleases them. Okay? We're going to choose les from down here. Les gusta. We're going to use the infinitive of the verb to write, which is singular. Right? It's not plural. So, les gusta escribir. All right? This matches this because this is singular. And that's the infinitive of the verb to write. And number 4, eating pleases you. Oops, you, not me. Let's go with te for that one. Te gusta comer. Te gusta comer. That is how the verb gustar works. So hold that up in case you want to see again. And I'm trying to think of what else to talk about with this verb. So there are other verbs like gustar, right? Here are some of them. Actually, I posted a list of them on the blog if you scroll down some, but I can write some of them. So there's gustar, to please. There is interesar, to interest. Is that how you spell that? Maybe, I don't know. To interest. Fascinar, to fascinate. Molestar, to annoy, apasionar, apasionar, to make someone feel passion about. Like how in English you say like, oh, I'm passionate about children, okay, or whatever. This is the verb that you would use for that in Spanish. And it works like gustar, so it'd flip it, so it'd be children, passion, me, right? Los niños me apasionan, or me apasionan los niños. What else to talk about with this verb? So when you have a sentence that's like this, right? Me gusta la pizza. If you want to make this sentence clearer, you can say, to me, pizza pleases. You can make it even clearer than this by adding here the personal a, me, to me, sticking with the indirect again, and doing the sentence like that. So this me here is another way to communicate the direct object me in English. Okay? A mí me gusta la pizza. A ti te gusta. Oop, this is not an accent. A ti te gusta la pizza. If you want to use someone's name here, you can say a Carlos le gusta la pizza. And again, this is mostly just to add clarification. For example, it's also used in arguments or when you just want to emphasize something. So if you're making a comparison that you really want to emphasize, for example, if you're saying, I don't like pizza, but Carlos does. So you can say, a mí no me gusta la pizza, pero a Carlos sí le gusta la pizza. That is what that is used for. Just to add clarification here. You could erase all this, and it would still make sense. But this is for clarification. Okay? So the verb gustar, right? You're only ever going to conjugate it, in this context, you're only ever going to conjugate it third person singular or third person plural. Okay? Why? Because the verb gustar means to please, and the things that are pleasing you are going to be either singular or plural, third person. Okay? Some of my students asked me, are you ever going to see the verb gustar conjugate in other contexts, like gusto, like gustamos? I told them that the verb gustar, meaning to please, when it's referring to humans, the verb gustar has another use, and that is to refer to humans who please you in a romantic or sexual way. So let's say I have a crush on somebody. I can say, Carlos me gusta. Oh, notice here, this means like Carlos pleases me, meaning in English, the reverse, I like Carlos. Notice that I think I gave an example a little while ago when I was talking about the verb apasionar. I said, los niños me apasionan, which is correct. And also here, Carlos me gusta is correct. Notice that differs from the order that I was showing you earlier. As long as, and I know that I even wrote the whole thing that said IO plus gustar plus the subject, which is usually how it works. That is usually how it works, truly. However, as long as you keep the indirect object together with gustar, you can switch the order. So it can be subject plus IO plus gustar. The things that are hinged together are IO and gustar go together. This is a unit, and this is a unit. So Carlos me gusta is just as grammatically correct as me gusta Carlos. Okay? La pizza, me gusta, is just as grammatically correct as me gusta la pizza. But this order, the first order that I showed you, is the more frequently used order. Okay? Pizza me gusta is kind of weird. Okay? Me gusta la pizza, better. Yeah. That is how I'm going to finish that. So like I said, gusta can sometimes, when it's referring to people, take on a sexual romantic connotation. In that case, and so to go back to what I was saying, can you see the verb gustar conjugated in something that's not gusta or gustan? If you want to tell someone, hey, do you like me? Right? This could be, oye, ¿te gustó? Again, this is a romantic or sexual context. Because, so here is gustar conjugated for the yo form. Because in Spanish, they have a verb that they use for liking people, not in a romantic or sexual context, and that is caerse bien. Caerse bien a alguien. Okay? Literally translates to fall well on someone. All right? So I'd conjugate that to say, so for example, I like Mary. I like Mary. All right? Mary, me, indirect object, cae bien. Mary me cae bien. Mary me cae bien. I guess this would be caerle then, because caerse would make it reflexive. Caerle bien a alguien. I like Mary. Mary me cae bien. I like Mary, like I have a crush on Mary, is Mary me gusta. Okay? And one last thing that I'll say is that gustar can be conjugated in, I think, all the tenses. Obviously, you're not going to see it as a command form. Well, if it wasn't obvious, you're not going to see gustar as a command form. However, you can use it in the past tense. Did you like Peru? Or I liked Peru. Peru me gustó. Peru me gustó. Again, you can change the order and say me gustó Peru. This is preterite tense. Okay? You can conjugate it in imperfect tense. You can conjugate it, subjunctive, whatever, all these other tenses. Just saying. Again, here with the order, as long as me and gustar go together, and me and gustar go together, you're game. So just to review, the concept of liking the things does not exist in Spanish. The concept of liking things does not exist in Spanish. I do not know how to emphasize this anymore. And the quicker you get rid of the idea of liking, and the quicker you start replacing it with to please, the happier life is going to be. No I like, no you like, no we like, no blank like, no nothing. That's all gone, okay? What we have is to please. I don't like pizza. Pizza pleases me. I don't like candy. Candy pleases me. I don't like writing. Writing pleases me. I don't like eating. Eating pleases me. Okay? Or eating pleases you. Or writing pleases them. Or candy pleases us. When you get rid of that, things become a lot easier to do. Okay? And again, the verb gustar takes the indirect object. Indirect object. All right. I do not know. And again, some verbs like gustar are fascinar, molestar, frustrar, I think is one. Frustrar. Yeah, to frustrate. And I'll close with interesar. Those all work like gustar. Okay. I hope this video has been of help to y'all. And that is all. Thanks. Oh, and then just to go over one more time, just one more time, because I like going over things, that if you want to add emphasis to something or make something clearer, you can go in front of your indirect object and say and use this phrasing. A mí me gusta. Blank, 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 blank. A Robert le gusta. Blank, blank, blank. Okay, this is your, you can do this too. All right. So, and so just actually, let me just expand on this just a little bit. So the whole a mí, a ti, a él, let me just expand on that just a little bit. So what I'm doing here is, these are a mí, a ti, a mí, a ti, a él, a ella, a usted, a mí, a ti, a él, a ella, a usted, a nosotros, a vosotros, a ustedes, a ellos, a ellas. Let me take this chance to talk a little bit about personal a. So in Spanish, and I'm going to make a video on this. This will probably be the next video I make. It'll be super short. In Spanish, you have this thing called the personal a, that whenever something is doing an action to a person, before you can mention who that person is, you have to say a. You have to use the vowel a. Okay? And this rule is very strict, okay? It's all the time, and the only times it doesn't exist are when you're using a pronoun, like in the other video, to refer to someone indirectly or direct, with a direct object pronoun or indirect object pronoun. That's the only time there's no a. When you are not using a pronoun, so when you're not using me, te, lo, la, nos, os, or los, las, and this is only for direct. This personal a, wow, this is getting complex real quick. Okay, anyways, when you're not using one of these, and when you're not using one of these, le, or se, or nos, os, les, or se again. When you're not using one of these pronouns, you have to use one of these constructions. Okay? And that's where this whole a blank is coming from. It's when you're not replacing the noun with the pronoun, you have to say a, because you can't say a yo. That doesn't work. It's like saying to I in English, or you give it to I. That doesn't work. You have to say you give it to me. So this is the a, mi, a ti, a él, a ella, a usted, a nosotros, a vosotros, a ustedes, a ellos, a ellas. Okay, that's where that's coming from. It's used for emphasis in the Gustar constructions, but it's also just used when you're not using the pronouns. If you just choose not to use a pronoun, and if you choose not to use a pronoun, you need to use one of these. If something is happening to a person, and for whatever reason, you don't want to use a pronoun, you have to pick one of these constructions. Okay? So that is all for today.